What's up? It's Marty Itcham, and you are in the Nerd Nest. Well, it's already almost June, and the only video I made this month was my Let's Play of Super Mario World 2025, and I still haven't even done the Star World yet. You know, the Hidden World. I'll have to do that later. Anyway, I'm going to get back to the real stuff now, starting with a new edition of 15-minute game show reviews. Well, as you know by now, on April 15th, we lost legendary game show host Wink Martindale, considered by many to be the quintessential game show host. After a poll I did earlier this month, I decided to do a tribute to him based on a review of what was, by far, his most successful game show. By coincidence, a new version of the show he hosted premiered the day before his passing. Yes, it's the game of X's, O's, and Dragons, Tic Tac Dough.
From Hollywood, it's everybody's game of strategy, knowledge, and fun. It's Tic Tac Dough. And now, here's our host, Wink Martindale.
Thank you, Charlie. Hello, everybody. Thank you. Welcome. Welcome to our show, once again, our X and O game we call Tic Tac Dough.
One of the more successful game shows from the 1970s and 80s, Tic Tac Dough actually dates back to the late 1950s, where it ran for 3 years on NBC before it met its end in 1959 due to the quiz show scandals. The show's creators, Jack Barry and Dan Enright, would effectively be blacklisted and would have to go into semi-exile for a little over a decade before finally returning to television in 1972 with their new hit game show, The Joker's Wild, which ran for 3 years on CBS before going into syndication in 1977. After Joker became a hit, Barry and Enright decided to update Tic Tac for then modern times. The new Tic Tac Dough premiered on CBS on July 3rd, 1978, and ended its run on the network on September 1st after just 9 weeks. But on September 18th, Tic Tac would return in nightly syndication, and in many cities, including on CBS's owned and operated stations, be paired with The Joker's Wild, and it became a nighttime powerhouse before being supplanted by the current nightly syndicated staples of Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy! Tic Tac and Joker both ended their original runs on May 23rd, 1986, and would see revivals in 1990 and 2017 for Joker, and 1990 and 2025 for Tic Tac Dough. But this video will mostly be talking about the original Tic Tac Dough from 1978 to 86. The host for the series was the one and only Wink Martindale, a man who needs no introduction, but I'll do it anyway because that's the point of my videos. Born Winston Conrad Martindale in Jackson, Tennessee in 1933, Wink, which was his nickname since childhood, began his career at age 17 at a local radio station before he hosted mornings at WHBQ in Memphis while he was a college student at Memphis State University before graduating with a Bachelor of Science degree in 1957. While working at that station, he would do an interview with Elvis Presley, the King of Rock and Roll, in 1954. In 1959, he performed the spoken word album Deck of Cards, which hit number 7 on the Billboard Hot 100 charts. Martindale's first break into television was at WHBQ-TV in Memphis as the host of Mars Patrol, a science fiction-themed children's television series. After his tenure with WHBQ ended, he became the host of the teenage TV show Dance Party, a local version of American Bandstand, roughly from 1955 to 59, where his friend Elvis Presley made an appearance in 1956. In 1964, Wink hosted his first nationally televised game show, What's This Song?, which ran for 1 year on NBC. His first major success came in 1972 when he took the MC position on a new CBS game show called Gambit. He spent 4 years hosting the original Gambit and hosted a Las Vegas-based revival for 13 months in 1980-81 on NBC. Fun fact, in 1980, while hosting Tic Tac Dough, Wink made a cameo appearance in the TV movie The Great American Traffic Jam alongside fellow game show hosts Art James, Jim Perry, and Jack Clark. Wink left Tic Tac in 1985 and formed his own production company, Wink Martindale Enterprises, and he hosted his first original creation, Headline Chasers, produced alongside Merv Griffin, but this only lasted 1 year. In 1987, he created the more successful Canadian series Bumper Stumpers, which I recently reviewed in my last video. Also in 1987, Wink hosted a revival of High Rollers, which only ran for a year, but then in 1989 hosted another series made in Canada called The Last Word. He then produced The Great Getaway Game for the Travel Channel in 1990, and in 1993 hosted and produced an adaptation of the board game Trivial Pursuit on the Family Channel, now Disney-owned Freeform. In 1994, he produced 3 other interactive game shows for the Family Channel alongside Trivial Pursuit: Boggle, Shuffle, and Jumble. His last successful game show, Debt, premiered in 1996 on Lifetime and ran for 2 years. Wink earned a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 2006, was one of the first inductees in the American TV Game Show Hall of Fame in Las Vegas in 2007, which has since closed, and made many appearances on TV and commercials throughout the 1990s, 2000s, and 2010s. In 2010, he would host his last game show, Instant Recall, on the Game Show Network. He also appeared on The Eric Andre Show, The Chase, and as a minister on the soap opera The Bold and the Beautiful. In 2021, Wink began hosting the nationally and internationally syndicated The History of Rock and Roll, a 2-hour weekend look back at music from the 1960s, 70s, and 80s. Finally, beginning in 2014, he started his own YouTube channel featuring episodes of game shows, game show pilots, rare clips from various game shows, and other game show-related content. Sadly, on April 15th, Wink passed away after privately battling lymphoma for more than a year at the age of 91. Wink will be missed by his fans, but will continue to live on throughout his YouTube channel and his many, many years in the world of game shows. The host for the final season of Tic Tac from 1985 to 86 was Jim Caldwell. Not much is known about him except that he was born in Akron, Ohio in 1959, and in addition to the last season of Tic Tac Dough, he hosted the pilot for Wink's Travel Channel series The Great Getaway Game, and from 1989 to 91, hosted the blackjack-themed show Top Card on the Nashville Network, and he then later did infomercials. The first announcer was Jay Stewart, who was the longtime sidekick to Monty Hall on the original Let's Make a Deal, and he would announce for many other game shows, including The Joker's Wild, Barry and Enright's sister show Bullseye, Sale of the Century, and Scrabble. Charlie O'Donnell, who is best known as the longtime announcer on Wheel of Fortune, took over as the announcer on Tic Tac in 1981, as well as on Joker and Bullseye, and stayed on Tic Tac Dough until it ended in 1986. Other announcers who subbed during the years include Johnny Gilbert, Bob Hilton, Mike Darrow, John Harlan, and Art James. The game was played like this. 2 contestants, one usually a returning champion, competed. The champion, or champion designate, played as X, while the challenger played as O. The contestants attempted to complete a line of 3 X's or O's on a standard tic-tac-toe board with 9 boxes on it. Each of the 9 boxes contained a category. With X going first, contestants alternated choosing a category and answering a general knowledge or trivia question in that category. Getting the question right puts the contestant's respective symbol on the board and added money to the pot, while getting it wrong leaves it unclaimed, with play moving on to the other player. The center box, being of the most strategic importance and thus worth more money than the outer boxes, involved a 2-part question, with the contestant given 10 seconds to think of the 2 answers needed to win the box. After each question, the categories shuffled into different positions, although in early episodes they shuffled after each player had a turn. The question values were $200 for the center box and $100 for the outer boxes on the CBS version, but were increased to $300 and $200 respectively for the syndicated version. The game board, by the way, was made up of 9 Apple II computer systems connected to individual computer monitors to represent each game screen. All were linked to a central Altair 8800 computer, which displayed the categories, the X's and O's, and the images for the bonus game, which I'll explain in a minute. It also featured a moving screensaver and custom messages. It was the first game show to use computerized graphics, which of course is now the standard, but in 1978 it was state-of-the-art. A contestant wins the game by achieving 3 X's or 3 O's in a row, either horizontally, vertically, or diagonally, and they win all the money in the pot at that point. If it becomes impossible for either contestant to form a winning line, whether all 9 boxes have been claimed or not, the game is declared a draw and a new one begins with 9 new categories, and the pot carries over and increases from there. On the CBS series, contestants play it until either being defeated or reaching the network's then limit of $25,000. The syndicated series allowed contestants to play until defeated, and for every 5 matches won, champions won a brand new car. For each tie game before being defeated, losing challengers received $250. Champions, however, who were defeated didn't get any extra money after a tie. Starting in 1980, several special categories, which had red backgrounds, were used throughout the show. Only one special category was used per game at first. Later, the board would display 2 special categories, and finally 3. These categories, however, never appeared in the center box, either at the start of the game or after a shuffle. Some of the special categories featured included the secret category. This was the show's first red category, which appeared in the lower right-hand corner at the start, then later in the bottom center. The topic of the secret category would only be announced by Wink after it was selected, and a correct answer doubled the entire value of the pot. It was replaced in 1983 by the grand question, which simply added $1,000 to the pot if the contestant was successful. Auction. Contestants were read a question with multiple answers and bid back and forth as to how many they could give. The bidding continued until one contestant either challenged the other or reached the maximum number of answers. The winning bidder then claimed the box by fulfilling their bid, but a miss allowed the opponent a chance to steal it by giving one more correct answer. The bonus category. A 3-part question was asked, awarding an extra turn if the contestant answered correctly. The categories were shuffled before the extra turn, and as a result, it was possible for the champion to win the game on his or her first turn by repeatedly selecting this category. If this somehow happened, the challenger was invited back to compete in the next game. The challenge category. The contestant who selected this category could answer the question or challenge their opponent to answer. Either contestant could win the box with a correct answer, and the one in control could also win it on a miss by the opponent. Double or nothing. If the contestant answered the question correctly, they could either keep the box or try to earn a second one. But if unsuccessful, the contestant lost both boxes. The rule was later changed to force the contestant to play for the second box. When this category was selected, the board did not shuffle after the first question was answered correctly. It's a dilemma. The contestant heard one clue to a subject and can request for up to 5 more. However, before the extra clues were read, the opponent decided who would answer. A miss awarded the box to the contestant who did not answer. Jump in category. The show's first red category where contestants used buzzers on their podiums to ring in and answer a question. A correct answer won the box, but if the contestant buzzed in with an incorrect answer or took too long to respond, the other contestant got to hear the entire question for a chance to win the box themselves. Number please. The contestants were asked a question with a numerical answer. The one in control offered a guess, and the opponent tried to predict whether the answer was higher or lower. A correct prediction won the box for the opponent, while a miss or an exact answer awarded it to the contestant in control. Opponent's choice. The contestant answered a question from one of 2 categories which were selected from them by their opponent. Play or pass. The contestant had the option to skip the first question and answer a second one. Seesaw. A question with multiple answers was asked, and the contestants alternated giving one answer at a time. As soon as either contestant failed to respond correctly or they repeated a previous answer, the opponent could win the box by giving one more correct answer. If the opponent also missed, then the box stayed unclaimed. Each contestant could also win the box by giving the last correct answer. Showdown. Contestants were asked a 2-part question using the buzzers to ring in. The first one to ring in could answer whichever part they chose, leaving the opponent to take the other. If only one of the 2 answered correctly, that contestant won the box. Otherwise, additional questions were asked until the box got claimed. Take 2. The question had 2 clues. The contestant could answer after the first clue, but to receive the second clue, he or she had to first give the opponent a chance to answer. 3 to win. A series of buzz-in questions was asked to both contestants, with the first to answer 3 correctly winning the box. Top 10. A question with ranked answers was asked. The contestant who gave the higher ranked answer won the box. However, if the first contestant gave a top ranked answer, they automatically won the box. Trivia challenge. A question with 3 multiple choice answers was asked. The contestant chose to answer first or defer to their opponent. Regardless of who started, If a contestant was incorrect, his or her opponent could choose from the remaining answers. If the opponent also guessed wrong, then the box remained unclaimed. This was renamed Trivia Dare during the 1984-85 season. The champion who won the game then had a chance to win more cash and prizes by playing the bonus game where they would hope to beat the dragon. There were two versions of this game. On the CBS version, sorry for the crappy video quality, the board hid 4 X's, 4 O's, and 1 dragon hidden inside the 9 monitors behind numbers 1 through 9. The X's and O's were shuffled around so that one of the symbols formed 3 in a row. For each X or O, a contestant revealed $150 was added to the pot. The contestant won the money and a prize package for finding the Tic Tac Dough line, regardless of which symbol it was made with. However, the player could quit at any time and take the cash. Later in the run, the champion automatically wins if the pot goes over $1,000. Finding the dragon ended the round and lost all the money in the pot. If the dragon was found, the same prize package was at stake for the entire episode until it was won. The more well-known version of Beat the Dragon from the syndicated version now had the monitors containing the words Tic and Tac, $6 amounts, and the dragon. The dollar amounts were originally $50, $150, $250, $350, $400, and $500. Later, the $50 was doubled to $100, and the $350 was reduced to $300. These items were shuffled and then hidden behind the numbers 1 through 9, and the contestant again chose one number at a time. If a dollar amount was revealed, it was added to the pot. The goal was to accumulate $1,000 or more without finding the dragon, and if successful, the contestant won the money and a prize package, usually worth between $2,000 and $5,000. For the first 5 seasons, the same prize package was at stake for the entire show until it was won, but in the final 3 seasons, a different prize package was offered in each new trip to the bonus round. Finding both the Tic and the Tac resulted in an automatic win, awarding the prize package and increasing the pot to $1,000. As before, if the dragon was found, the game was automatically over and the contestant lost everything. After any safe choice, the contestant had the option to stop the game and keep the money. Also, for a brief period in 1983, a contestant had to accumulate exactly $1,000 without going over or find the Tic and the Tac to win, but this requirement was quickly eliminated. Finally, for a time in 1983, members of the studio audience were invited to play a special audience game called the Dragon Finder, whenever the bonus round was won or if a contestant stopped early. The remaining numbers on the board were not immediately uncovered. Instead, an audience member would be selected to choose whichever number hid the dragon. If that person did not find the dragon, another audience member would be asked to choose one of the remaining numbers. The prize for finding the dragon was originally a flat $250, but was later increased by $50 for every incorrect guess. When the change was made to invite 2 audience members to take turns choosing numbers, the losing member received $50. And that is how Tic Tac Dough was played. And even though it really doesn't need to be graded, I have to do it anyway because that's what the whole video is for. Well, what can be said about a show like Tic Tac Dough? Jack Barry and Dan Enright turned one of the simplest games of all time into a glitzy, sparkly, big-money game show by adding trivia, strategy, and a chance to win thousands of dollars in cash and prizes. As I said before, Tic Tac first began in 1956 on NBC and ran for 3 years before being done in by the quiz show scandals and ended its original run in 1959, ruining Jack Barry and Dan Enright's reputations and forcing them into semi-exile for over a decade. However, the two would later redeem themselves in 1972 when Jack Barry created and hosted his new game show for CBS, The Joker's Wild, which ran on that network for 3 years. In 1977, Joker would become a big hit in syndication, and a year later, Barry and Enright would bring Tic Tac Dough back for a new generation. It only ran for 9 weeks on CBS's daytime lineup because of its competition, Mark Goodson and Bill Todman's Card Sharks on NBC. It was another failed attempt by CBS to find a lead-in to their mega hit, The Price is Right, and the iNetwork wouldn't finally succeed in that regard until 1982 with the premiere of the new $25,000 Pyramid, and then Press Your Luck in 1983. But 3 weeks after being dropped by the I, Tic Tac would find its home in syndication and in many cities be paired with Joker, and its success would be guaranteed. Both shows ended in 1986, however, as they would ultimately be done in by the new syndicated game show giants Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy, which are still at the top of their games more than 40 years later. But before those two shows came along, Tic Tac and Joker were required nightly viewing for millions of Americans. Tic Tac, in particular, was notable for being one of the first game shows of the day for the fact that since champions could stay on until defeated, champions could and often did retire with over $100,000 in winnings. The most successful contestant during Tic Tac's 8-year run was U.S. Navy Lieutenant Tom McKee, whom, during his 9 weeks in 1980, won $312,700, including 8 cars, one for every 5 wins, and over $200,000 in cash, a record that stood until August 1999 when Michael Shutterly won $500,000 on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and the number has been surpassed many times over since then. Also, McKee's 43 wins stood as a record until 2004, when it would be surpassed by the current host of Jeopardy, Ken Jennings. As we know, there have been attempts to revive Tic Tac Dough over the years. First in 1990, when it was hosted by Patrick Wayne, the son of legendary actor John Wayne. Unfortunately, the show was not well received by viewers or fans because, 1, several changes were made to the gameplay, although it did more or less stay true to the classic format. 2, Patrick Wayne was not a good host.
Name him. Lee? You win!
And 3, the rapping dragon in the bonus round.
You'll lose your money, you'll lose your prize. Don't pick the dragon square, cause that ain't wise.
That's so true.
Tic Tac Dough would basically be dead for almost 35 years until Game Show Network brought it back in 2025 with Brooke Burns as the host. And I must be honest, it's somehow worse than the 1990 version. Brooke is a good host. She's proved that when she hosted The Chase on the Game Show Network. But they changed the format of the game dramatically, and it doesn't even stick with the classic gameplay that made it work for so long. Even the 1990 version stayed true to the original format somewhat. Anyway, there's a reason why Wink's version will always be the best. And as for Wink Martindale, well, what else can be said about him? He was the master of his craft, much like Bill Cullen before him. He could make any game show work, even if the show itself sucked. Wink was just an affable, friendly, likable host. He never overstepped his boundary, and he was always nice but firm with the contestants. And even though he was the star of the show, he knew the contestants were the real stars. He essentially helmed the ship. Jim Caldwell, who succeeded him in the final season, was okay, but for the most part he was just there. I mean, he wasn't bad, and he was definitely miles ahead of a Patrick Wayne. But I think he was just simply there because the producers knew the writing was on the wall by the time he took over, since by 1985, Tic Tac and Joker were both being beaten by Wheel and Jeopardy by that point. But Tic Tac Dough will always be Wink's show, and Wink will always be one of the greatest game show hosts of all time, and will be seen by many as synonymous with the title of game show host, and we will all miss him. That being said, Tic Tac Dough is one of the best game shows of all time as it took a simple child's game, added challenging trivia with a great host in Wink Martindale, and offered big money, and instead of an X or an O, it gets a solid A. And now, the part where I talk about how I'd revive the show if given the chance, even though it's already been revived. Of course, as I just said, Tic Tac has already been brought back on the Game Show Network, but the overall change in the gameplay format and the bonus round simply doesn't work. I know the Game Show Network needs to have it so games don't straddle between episodes and they don't have returning champions, but that's partly why this show sucks. The show, if brought back right, should move back to syndication and be paired with another revival of the Joker's Wild. And since NBC Universal owns the rights to Tic Tac Dough's format, it could air on some of the Peacock's owned and operated stations or affiliates. The game would be played the same as before, but with increased money. The center box questions would add $1,000 to the pot, outer box questions $500, and if the game ends in a tie, the pot would always carry over to the next game, and losing contestants would win $1,000 for each tie. The bonus round is the same, but now the dollar amounts range from $500 to $3,000 in increments of $500. The goal is to accumulate $5,000 or more, or finding the tick and the tack before the dragon shows up. Doing that would increase the cash to $10,000 and award a prize package worth anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000. Now, unlike the original version, champions would retire after 10 games, but if they managed to win 5 games, they'd still win a new car. And if they could win 10 games, they would retire as champion and receive a bonus of $50,000 in cash. As for the host, Brooke Burns is actually a pretty good fit, so she could remain if she wanted. Other choices could be Mark L. Wahlberg, Mayim Bialik, or Chris Hardwick. And the announcer could be either Jim Thornton or Randy West. Anyway, that is my most recent episode of 15-Minute Game Show Reviews. Remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel, smash the like button, follow me on Space Hey, you know the drill. And I hope to keep making more videos of all kinds, and I hope you'll keep watching. I'm going to try and do more videos that don't involve just game shows and Let's Plays. We'll see. Until next time, I am Marty Itchram, and I am logging out of the Nerd Nest.
And now, here's our host, Wink Martindale.
Wink Martindale!
Wink Martindale!
Wink Martindale!
We'll see you next time, everybody. Wink Martindale, bye-bye.